here, Vince.
Absolutely.
I want to get to the defense because I know you're on a bit of a time. We're kind of getting down when you got to bail. So let's talk, Vince, about the defense. Just overall, big picture. What are your thoughts coming out of watching it again from the defense?
Well, it's really a tale of two halves. And I want to put to bed we talked about this on what Sunday morning, what is it, Monday morning?
Still Sunday night, right?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit. Everybody has their knickers in a bunch about the three front, in the second half, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The first possession of the game, Notre Dame was in a three front, and they lived in the backfield, and they did a great job against Florida State's offense, right? They were getting pressure. They were making the quarterback run around like a crazy person. He didn't know, which end was up, and they were in a three front, right? So it's not the front that was the problem, okay? And let me back up again. The first half, I thought Notre Dame was aggressive. I thought they did pretty well. Yes, there were some tackling issues at times, but they did a great job of getting pressure in the backfield and not allowing Florida State to do what they wanted to do. It was great. Second half obviously was a different story. I think you can blame some of it on fatigue. I think you can blame some of it on the rotation that they had, but the tackling wasn't good and the contain wasn't good. Those were the two issues that I had in the second half, tackling and contain. And I both of those things are very, very correctable. I don't really have a huge issue with it. It's amazing the vitriol that Coach Freeman is taking, the complete opposite of what it was.
Well, that was to be expected by you and I. I mean, a week ago, he's the next head coach of Notre Dame.
Right.
Now he's Bryan Van Gorder. That's just the nature of fans. And I love that passion because that's why there's 400 people on our stream right now. And I love y'all for that. So let's talk. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Vince.
Okay.
Because if you go look, the difference that I have is I don't have a problem with the three-man front. I like that for flexibility. They had some really weird alignments on that first drive that Florida State wasn't prepared for. I like the mix-up. I'm okay at times using Isaiah Foskey off the ball. I'm okay with that. The issue that I had is after they went up 38-20, which came after a drive where they stopped Florida State. They were up 31-20. They came out, forced a 3-and-out. Florida State actually goes for it on fourth down, so it's a 4-and-out. Notre Dame was in a four-man front that whole time. After that, they went almost exclusively to three-man front.
There was no variation.
The problem I have.
Agreed.
Yes. And it was very much you went away from what worked. So as I'm watching, going through watching these drives and I'm making notes, I'm not seeing the pressures as much. And people say you went to they didn't go to prevent. They just weren't as aggressive. And he went away from who he is. I'm a believer that when it's 38-20, they got to pass now. Pin your freaking ears back and go at them. That's the mistake I think Coach Freeman made. It wasn't necessarily going to 3-4. It was, hey, let's attack. Let's pin our ears back and attack. Let's get this ball back to our offense right now, and let's put this baby away. Right? Let's put the women and children in bed and go looking for dinner.
Ooh, very good program. The program.
There you go.
I got you.
So that was sort of my issue, Vince. It's not the three. So I'm going to somewhat disagree with you. Your point is accurate that the 3-down was effective at times. It's more of it's effective as a changeup. This is still a team, and here's my point. This is still a team where your best position group on defense is your line.
And taking one of those guys and taking them off is
you're dropping them back.
Sure.
That is my issue.
And they weren't in a prevent per se because, like what you said, because a prevent you've got 4 guys deep, you've got everybody backing up at the snap. I mean, that wasn't the case.
But I get the intent by what people are saying. Yes.
It was conservative play calling. It's like taking your foot off the gas offensively and just running between the tackles. Right. That's akin to what it was, and I do have a problem with that. And that is the coordinator. I mean, he's the one calling the plays. But maybe did Brian Kelly say, "Hey, man, let's take our foot off the gas. Let's just not make mistakes." Blah 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 blah. Maybe, but I think the buck stops with the defensive coordinator. Now, do I think that it's going to change? That's the key to me. Do I think that hey, man, we can't really do this. We're going to fix some of our substitution patterns. We're going to not be as.
And that's what we didn't see.
Agreed, and that's where I think that we're going to learn a lot next week and the week after to see if that changes. If that changes, then the game one's an anomaly, right? And I don't have a problem with that. If it doesn't, then it's a bigger issue.
Yeah, like I'm watching the play now, Vince. I got the video going, and they're in a 3 down, and they got one of their Vipers. I can't tell if it's Adamiola or if it's Foskey.
Okay.
And it's 2nd and 7, and there's 5 guys in the box. They've got, it looks like 3 safeties in the game. You've got your rover outside, so it looks like a 4-2 personnel, but you've got your Viper back, and you're asking your Viper to basically read and flow like a mic. And lo and behold, guess what? He doesn't do it.
Right.
So, you know, and that wasn't that to me. You're just letting them run. You're letting them gas you. 18 points in the 3rd quarter against a Power 5 team is not a big enough lead to take your foot off the gas. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The reason I don't think this is a Marcus Freeman thing only is because this is something we've seen in the past, and we saw it happen on both sides of the ball. Because the offense went away from what got them the 38-20 lead as well. We didn't see them attacking downfield anymore. You know, and so to me, that's why I say this is a Brian Kelly thing more than a Marcus Freeman thing. And Brian Kelly's gonna have to learn. You've got to teach your team the killer instinct first, then you pull back in these games. Right. And so that to me, so that's part Brian Kelly, but also part Marcus Freeman, because as you said, he didn't make the adjustments he needed to make. I thought there were some technical issues wrong and some schematic flaws against the run game too, and this also reared its head in the first half. They weren't setting the edge effectively. They were allowing Florida State to seal them inside a lot, and so they were getting their pullers outside with 1 linebacker against 2 pullers, because they were basically pinning the Vipers and the 3 techniques inside, and the pullers were able to get outside, and there just weren't enough bodies out there to take them on. That's something so I don't know if that was a scheme issue or if that was the ends not setting the edge effectively. It looked to me, because it happened multiple times with different players, that it was a scheme problem. That's going to have to get corrected, because you're going to have to get your safeties more involved downhill to do that. You know, in my opinion, I would like to see them kind of use the Vipers a little bit more to set that hard edge and force the inside runs, and then let the linebackers scrape and flow. Because what was happening is that backside Will or Mike, depending on which way they went, was basically taken out of the play. Because now the ball's going outside, he's going to have to get all the way across. He's now not part of the run defense. And so the Mike or the Will, the play side linebacker would flow and take out the guard, but then that there was no safety in the picture, and then the Will's coming from so far deep because you spilled it, the Will can't make that play against athletic running backs like Florida State had. So I thought that was a schematic problem, and I'm going to have some stuff on this in my video breakdown, which is going to be available to Irish Breakdown members only tomorrow, where I'm going to show some of this on film. But I thought that was an issue too that needs to be addressed. But again, that's one of those things where Florida State was also executing well. I thought their line blocked well in the run game. I was a little disappointed at times Notre Dame got pushed off the ball by guys that shouldn't have. I thought at times they went like wholesale number 2 defensive line substitutions on the first 89-yard touchdown run. You had 3 starters on the field. 3, and 2 of them were DBs.
Let's say Kyle Hamilton was one of them.
Yeah, you had 3. You had Kyle Hamilton, you had Cam Hart, and I think maybe one of the corners.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. Maybe a linebacker, but you had no defensive lineman on the field.
Right.
On the second touchdown play, you had like 4 or 5 starters on the field, but the 4 of them were DBs. So you had all but one of your starting front 7 guys out. You've got to do more mixing. And this is one thing that I thought Notre Dame did a really good job of under Clark Lee, is they'd start the game off with their starting D-line. But then after that, you'd have the first and second team tackles would be together. So like the first team nose would be the number 2-3 technique, and then the number 1-3 technique would be with the number 2 nose. And then they'd kind of mix and match the ends in a little bit different. They need to rethink that strategy a little bit.
I agree.
And I have no issue with getting your second team defensive line in the game.
Well, me neither.
Zero issue with that.
Because they're good. They're really good. But
it's just you need to put them in together a little bit more.
They're second team for a reason. There's better guys ahead of them. So, you know, exactly.
Right. Like some of these numbers that we saw from rotation, I loved. I mean, you had Howard Cross getting 35 snaps. Heinisch only had 45. Adamiola had 54. Foskey had 49. Myron Tungavaloa had 54. Justin Adamiola had 28. You know, so I liked the rotation. I thought that I'd like to see a little bit more of Lacey and Mills. I thought Mills was really good when he was in there. I'd like to see him get a little bit more action. I'd like to, and there was one time, Vince, they went nickel, and they had Jason Adamiola, Myron Tungavaloa, and Kurt Hein, or not Kurt Heinisch. It was another defense, maybe Howard Cross, all in the game together.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense to me. You have three defensive tackles basically in the game together.
And Jason was playing on the left side of the defense. He was the edge.
He was on the edge.
Right.
Yeah. That didn't make sense to me. And of course they didn't get any pressure on the quarterback. That was on the touchdown pass where Houston Griffith got beat.
Oh, that's right.
That's what the play was. So it's like, well, yeah, you didn't get a pass rush. Well, no kidding. You had three defensive tackles on the field.
Right. Exactly. What are you expecting? I mean,
yeah. So yeah, I didn't quite understand that. So there were some things like that. And again, it's game one for the coaches too. All right. This is Marcus Freeman's first game with these players.
Right. And they're trying to figure out what those combinations are that work. And that happens in game where you throw some stuff and it's like throwing the spaghetti against the wall, seeing if it sticks. There's some things you're going to throw out there and say, okay, can these guys play together effectively? Well, okay, no, they can't. So, let's get some guys in there that can and the different combinations. So you're right. I'm going to give them a bit of a pass on the substitution
pass,
patterns,
but just patient with it. Let's see how it evolves. And that's going to be the thing is how do they do in games 2 and 3 and 4 and 5? And that's true for anybody. I mean, yes, it's fine to say, well, it's okay making mistakes, but then it's like, okay, but you can't keep making those, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where we're going to continue to what we're going to learn more. We're going to learn a lot about Marcus Freeman this year. Good and what some things he's going to have to work on. No coach is perfect. We're going to learn that, right? And he's still learning about his team. And so next week will be an opportunity to do that on a short week, which is going to be very interesting.
Yeah,
linebacker wise, I thought Drew White had a very good game. I thought JD Bertrand was solid. He had some areas where he looked like maybe wasn't sure what he was doing, but he had some other good moments.
He was who I thought he was.
He over-pursued a couple times. He was very good in the run game. Had 11 tackles, which means in one game he's 3 tackles away from what Shane Simon had in 11 games last year. Okay, so that's not a shot on Shane. That's say, hey, I'll take a guy playing Will that needs to clean some stuff up that had 11 tackles.
That has production.
Because what if they always said he's always around the ball? He was around the ball. Now he's got to clean some stuff up. Jack Kaiser, they basically avoided him the whole night. I don't know if that was the plan that hey, let's avoid Jack Kaiser. The ball was never really near him.
Yeah.
I thought Isaiah Pryor was very active as a pass rusher and a run defender, but his coverage struggled. I thought the second team linebackers, including Will Bauer, had some really nice pass rushes, but as a run defender, he was not really there. And as getting into coverage, he was not there. And then Shane Simon obviously had his woes. So I thought linebacker play was a little inconsistent. I thought they were put in some really bad spots in the second half where they were just because they weren't the second half. I'm watching this play now. The linebackers are 5 yards off the ball waiting.
Right.
I'm not having Drew White and JD Bertrand, who are both way in the 220s, sitting back there taking on guards.
Exactly.
That's not a Drew White, JD Bertrand problem. That's a defensive coaching staff problem.
You have to move them. You have to bring them downhill. You have to have them on the move because you're right. If they're catching a 320-pound guard, they're going to lose.
They're not Manti.
Right. You're going to lose.
Right.
And I don't like them being that far off the line of scrimmage either. So that was almost like a prevent situation. They were that far
That's
back.
where I think people think and again, it wasn't a prevent. It's just you lost your aggressiveness.
Yeah.
And so this is in the third quarter. It wasn't like they went up 38-20 with like 8 minutes in the fourth quarter. That I would have understood what they did if it was later in the game. Because make Florida State go on a drive. I'm okay with that, right, Vince? I mean, make Florida State put a longer drive together. I mean, the score, the drive where Florida State went and made it 38-28, it was 15 plays, 75 yards, took almost 6 minutes off the clock. You do that in the fourth quarter, game over. They did this in the third quarter because Florida State, you know what I mean? Like Florida State scored with 13:42 left in the fourth quarter. I'm watching that same drive now, and there's 3:37 left in the third quarter on that drive, right? You do that a series later, and it's okay, cool. Because now it's 38-20 in the fourth quarter. There's not enough possessions, enough time to do that. You know what I mean? I think Vince, we're having a little technical problem. So anyway, that's where I'm at with this. With the defenses, I just felt like the timing of it was a mistake. I thought They should have gone to this a lot later. Secondary wise, I thought if Vince comes back, we'll try to get some thoughts on the secondary from him before he has to leave to go back to class. But secondary wise, I thought that it was a little spotty. I thought at times the secondary was good in the run game. At times they were off. I thought Houston Griffith had a really rough coverage play, but other than that was solid. But you can't make those kind of technical mistakes that get you beat. He's going to have to fix that. I thought Kyle Hamilton had some great plays. There was one mistake I thought he made that when I went back and watched the film, it wasn't him, but there were still some issues that he had. And when you look at he kind of allowed a guy to get out in coverage. Sorry, I'm trying to help Vince with his issues. There were times when I thought that he just got a little too aggressive. He got beat on a corner route. So there's some things even that great All-American has to clean up, which is it's going to happen. It's first game type of stuff. I thought Cam Hart played pretty well in his first game. Got a little winded in the fourth quarter. Clearly, he's going to have to kind of push through that. He got a little sloppy with his technique in the fourth quarter. But DJ Brown, he was the guy that whiffed on that long touchdown. You can't be on the field and miss that kind of play. I mean, that's the difference between a 5-yard gain and an 89-yard touchdown when the other team's backed up at their own 11. You can't make that kind of mistake. You can do that against Florida State and still win the game. You do that against a team that's better, and you're going to lose. And that's the thing that we have to look at and say, hey, look, that's the stuff you're going to have to clean up. And I thought Clarence Lewis had a solid game. Florida State hardly attacked outside at all. And when they did, it was against the safeties, which I thought was a good game plan. Attack the safeties. I thought the coverage from the linebackers was a little spotty. I thought that the run defense from the safety position was mostly good, but when they made mistakes, they were big mistakes. So those are some of my thoughts from the Notre Dame defense. Again, at times they were brilliant. And I think in the second half, when they were in 4-down fronts, they were more effective. So I think the 3-down needs to be a thing where it is a wrinkle. It is a change up. It is something that gets the offense on their heels with what are they showing. At times they had 2 rovers on the field together. I'm okay with all that. The problem, however, is that when it became your base and then you backed off your pressures, again, so I would argue that, yes, I didn't like the 3-down front late simply because you didn't always have your best players on the field. And then when you did have Foskey back, you weren't turning them loose. Guy had 2 sacks in the first half and you just had him sitting back. I'm a believer that you pin people and you go after them. And we didn't see that from them. So end of the day, there were some schematic issues that need to be addressed, and there was a lot of technical mistakes. The tackling, to me especially, the second half was due to, I think, guys being tired. I think that was part of it. And they didn't push through the fatigue like they need to. And that's something that they're going to have to learn. And I also thought part of it was just not taking great angles to the ball. Sometimes, they were a little out of control getting to the ball, which allowed the Florida State guys to make a miss. And I thought they were allowing themselves to get sealed inside a little too soon. Whether that was too easily, or whether that was the players, or whether that was a scheme, remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do. I mean, you go to the fourth quarter and you step up, and Florida State's got a chance to win the game, and you did what you needed to do to get the stop. And I thought it was interesting that Florida State took the ball first, which it made sense that they took the ball first. Actually, I might have been mistaken on that. I thought that they chose to take the ball, but I could be wrong on that. But, they got the ball. Defense had a chance to come up with a stop, and that's what they did. They made the stop. And so you say what you want about it, that tells me something about this defense. When you can struggle the way that they did, that, and then come out that second half, or that overtime, and have a chance to make a play, that to me, that, like I said, that showed me something. So I liked where they're at. And again, part of the situation is Florida State tried to go at Notre Dame with the run game. They were in their 4-down looks. They were more aggressive. On the second down run, I'm watching now, they brought a corner fire, expecting run. Linebackers were back to being downhill, back to making plays. And that's what this team can do, is let this team run, use their speed to your advantage. And I think that's the key for the Notre Dame defense. So